Hello! I'm Peach Bailey, and to start off, I would like to give a huge thanks to Some Black Guy for letting me do this video on his channel. He's a good friend of mine and an amazing person, so this is a huge honor. I've decided to bring to you all today something you might be aware of on account of Some Black Guy doing videos on her before, but our dear old friend Franny has been putting on her racism boots again and trying to deny that what she does has anything to do with hating white folks. Strap in!
Finally, we're going to answer the question you've all been asking. Why does Decoded hate white people? Well, we don't.
If you don't, then why would, in your own words, we all be asking why you do? You know what's so weird is how I've never been accused of being a racist. I guess I just don't act like a damn racist, Franny. Sometimes it's not everyone else who's the problem. If it seems like that, it might be you. Introspection. It's the juice of character, my dear. No.
There's overwhelming evidence that implicit racial bias is real, and institutional racism is still rampant in America and abroad today.
Anyone else see what she did there? Equating implicit racial bias somehow to institutional racism? It's so slippery how she did that so quickly so we wouldn't notice. You sly dog, you, Franny. I notice you don't have any sources backing up either of these claims.
Whoa, okay, talking about oppression doesn't mean I hate white people.
No, the tone in which you do it does suggest that, though. There are plenty of people who talk about racism and their struggles and do it without the fuck white people message lovingly handcrafted into almost every sentence.
When I criticize the school-to-prison pipeline, lack of police training, workplace discrimination, or our court system, some people don't want to hear it or think about it.
You know what's really interesting is your choice of graphics. Now, I know Franny doesn't personally edit all these videos. I just wanted to show you a breakdown from a video that this channel has made, and please do this yourself at home. Check the stock images they use when they're talking about race. Think about the representations they're feeding you. None of this is accidental. Now, knowing this, here is a composite I've made from this video. Excuse the quality, I'm working off screenshots with MS Paint and not a lot of time. I'm just trying to show you the way that different races are represented overall. Whether positively or negatively, it's pretty blatant, and you can see who gets the majority of negative imagery. Just something to think about. Watch her videos for yourself though. Maybe look at these choices of image and think about what are the first words that come into your head when you see these pictures. I see innocent, happy, studious, and angelic, victimized, blamed, and then arrogant, ignorant, clueless, angry, unreasonable, privileged. See what I mean? Even if you're not consciously thinking about this, your brain is doing all the work for you and making these connections repeatedly as these images are flashed on the screen. How do these images make you feel about black people? How do they make you feel about white people? Can you really make the argument that MTV's Decoded isn't race baiting? I'll leave that with you and move on.
Let's use preschool, for example. In a study done by the Department of Education, black children make up 18% of the preschool population, but represent almost half of all out-of-school suspensions.
Alright, Franny, let's have a quick little sit down and use our noggins to wonder why this might be the case. Now I know you've paired this graphic with a picture of a flat-out, adorable little black girl, and honestly, I just want to cuddle the heck out of her. She's so cute! But you doing that to elicit that kind of emotional response from me so that I'll think, how innocent these kids are. They're obviously being treated unfairly by asshole teachers. They didn't do nothing. It's pretty obvious. It's not slipping by me, Franny. Some of the kids that get suspensions are due to serious behavioral problems like violence and severe ADHD, things like that. And we can go into all of the reasons why some of these issues affect black kids at a higher rate than white kids, but honestly, that would make this video a week long, and you won't watch anything over 10 minutes as it is. My point is that behavioral problems don't just go away from a suspension. They don't just snap out of having severe ADHD, nor do you break a streak of violence with a timeout. So obviously kids with these kinds of issues are going to do it again, thereby creating repeat suspensions, thereby affecting the overall percentage of suspensions affecting their demographic. And before you say, crying racism is easier, it literally says in your own sources that almost half of these kids are being suspended several times a year each. It also says that black children were twice as likely to be suspended as white and Latino kids, meaning that by this article's count, white and Latino kids are about equally suspended, but that black kids are suspended more than 5 times more often than Asian American kids. It's kind of odd that a white supremacist system would treat Asian kids more than twice as well as it treats whites, huh? Your article also says that some of these suspensions are from impoverished kids who hit, bite, and pinch other children, and that this should be labelled as developmental delays rather than misconduct. Sorry, but as soon as you're violent, you're out. I spent 3 years working in childcare, from babies to primary school-aged kids. I can tell you, there is a zero-tolerance policy towards violent children. Furthermore, kids who hit and bite don't often sit nicely in timeout when they're asked to, and your own sources confirm this. Oh, and the best part, the 18% to 48% statistic Franny keeps trotting out in her videos isn't even read accurately. The quote is actually, black children accounted for 18% of preschool enrollment, but almost half, 48% of the children suspended more than once. And you're assuming that the teachers giving the suspensions are white when there is no such information given. You're a fucking liar, Franny. Fuck off.
Basically, while a misbehaving white toddler might get time out, a black toddler is more likely to get sent home and have disciplinary action on their record.
Already told you why that could be, but my racism.
What does that say to you? For journalists who investigate these kinds of stats, they reach the conclusion that these suspensions are tied to teacher bias.
The article that you chose as a source on multiple occasions happens to be written by someone whose public author bio includes the words parent activist and special interest in race. So unbiased, much wow.
This is a huge problem. Does it mean that all of these preschool teachers are racist? Not explicitly so, but they have bias, just like all of us.
Right, so you're not racist against white people, you're just racially biased against white people, which is totally different, alright.
And fixing this is even more complicated, including allocating tons of money towards teacher training, childcare resources, and a million other things.
Wow, Nobel Peace Prize for you, Franny. You've figured out that education requires funding in order to improve. The problem isn't only the amount of money being thrown into schools, though. It's how that money is spent. Say schools.
Are you A, mad at the Department of Education for not training teachers better? B, mad at your state congressional representatives for not pushing for bigger education budgets? Or C, mad at me?
Why not all of the above and then some? Why not be mad at the systems and at you for being a trash bag?
Mad at me for talking about this because it's easier to direct your anger towards someone making you feel guilty instead of being angry at the complicated as world of institutional racism.
People aren't mad at you for opening up a conversation and daring to be brave in the political wilderness of race relations. They're mad at you because you're a condescending, unfunny, race-baiting dipshit idiot who has no actual clue what they're talking about and just wants to get attention by being faux provocative with the majority popular opinion of the time, which happens to be right now, fuck white people.
If you chose C, please resist the urge to close your browser and instead keep listening.
Like you listen to people who disagree with you? Oh, wait.
You might have noticed, nowhere in there did I say white people are the problem.
You didn't say it, Franny. You know you don't need to, what with all the messages and imagery you put up in your videos. Trust us, the message comes through loud and clear.
That's because these issues are bigger than individuals. It's going to take all of us to advocate for change.
Then maybe you should stop being so divisive, fucktard.
So, the next time you have the urge to say, Francesca hates white people, please autocorrect to, Francesca hates the historical roots of oppression.
No, I'll stick with Franny's a racist.
It's clear that people who get mad about discussions of racism aren't actually listening to the criticisms.
Funny you should mention that, Franny. Remember how you blocked me that one time for tweeting at you a couple of times about points we disagreed on, and then you blocked my mate Andy Worski, and then you unblocked him months later to stir shit again and then blocked him again when he responded? That's so weird, isn't it?
They aren't hearing the facts and stats.
Franny talking about facts and stats, holy shit.
Why? Well, Dr. Robin DiAngelo, a white critical racial and social justice scholar, has described the discomfort some white people have towards talking about racism as white fragility.
Honestly, I don't even want to get into the hypocrisy of this because firstly, you label anyone who disagrees with you as a fragile, salty white and disregard the thousands of black people, including my boy some black guy, who hate you and the shit you spew, but also because you've proven you're basically a female Steve Shives with the Twitter block strong game you got going on. Also, if it had nothing to do with disparaging white people and instead was solely about ignorant people, why would you even bring up white fragility as a concept?
Dr. DiAngelo says this manifests itself as outward displays of emotions, such as anger, fear, and guilt, and behaviors such as argumentation, silence, and leaving the stress-inducing situation. I'd also add aggressively clogging someone's @replies on Twitter to that list, but that's neither here nor there.
Don't start with that shit, Franny. You know exactly what you did, and you know exactly what your 100,000 Twitter fans do.
And because talking about racism automatically makes a lot of white people uncomfortable, they sometimes begin to think they're being personally attacked or blamed.
Then stop specifying that they're white, for a start. Even when you brought up DiAngelo, you were like, I got this white researcher that says white people are fragile.
But when these issues are brought up, too often people accuse us of bias against white people.
Then stop making it so obvious.
By refusing to engage with the actual issues, the people who shout the absurd accusation, "You're racist against white people," are really just attempting to shut down the conversation.
Not at all. You're free to say whatever you want. And nobody is yelling here except you in your mock white fragile outrage character that you so love. But there are ways to have these conversations without being totally biased against one race or another. And being obviously biased against one whilst never disparaging or bringing up inconvenient stats about the other doesn't help either side of the conversation make their points accurately or productively. For example, in your own sources, and in every source, let's be honest, Asian Americans consistently study better, don't get suspended as much, outperform all other races in their jobs and earnings, hardly ever get arrested. I really could go on and on. Asian Americans, if you looked at them like you look at white people, should be top of your list of most privileged people in the world. By your logic, all the stats back up that the system is stacked up in their favor and even whites can't compete, meaning the system would be racist against blacks and whites, and Asians are the super privileged master race. But you never bring up anything of the sort, because in that case you would see it as ridiculous to assert that. Then why is it okay to say that when whites out-earn black people and don't get arrested as much? Because, Franny, and stay with me on this one, you are biased and racist against whites.
Imagine if we were able to talk about these issues without a mob of angry replies.
Imagine if you were able to get through 2 sentences without placing a beautifully crafted fuck whites message right between those lines.
Or if the discussions were about what policies were needed and what our political leaders could do to help kids stay in school and prevent citizens from being murdered by the police.
Hey, I'm all for talking about actual ways that these issues can be solved, which, by the way, is not what you do in your videos at all. You never offer any solutions. Once or twice you've offered incredibly broad suggestions like more funding for 5 seconds out of a 5-minute video. And the whole rest of it is all fuck white people. But hey, you want to have the conversation about kids staying in school? Good, have it honestly. You want to have conversations about police brutality? Fair enough, it is an issue. But when you even bring up the conversation you want to have as citizens being murdered by police, we know before we even start the conversation that you are going to be dishonest about it. You want to talk about it, then acknowledge the stats that you find inconvenient. Talk about how brutality isn't necessarily a race issue, that most of the people killed by police were being threatening or acting erratically, and police had reason to believe that their lives were in danger. And if they're killed unarmed, and after investigation it is found that the police really did have no reason to fear for their own safety, and that they acted in a brutal way, then let the officers involved be charged to the full extent of the law.
Imagine if people who think I'm racist against white people found something they enjoyed online, instead of watching Decoded every week and complaining in the comments.
Don't insult the intelligence of people who don't like you, Franny. I haven't watched any of your videos in months because honestly they drive me up the wall, and there are about 1 million things I enjoy more than listening to you, like getting my teeth drilled. I thought you wanted a discussion. You do know that discussions often feature multiple points of view, right? It's not just, okay, let's have an open conversation, but only the people who agree with me get to comment, and everyone who follows someone who disagrees with me gets blocked on Twitter. Oh wait, it is like that, isn't it?
Thanks so much for watching. We don't hate anybody.
When you have to devote an entire episode to trying to convince everyone that you're not racist, you're probably racist, just saying. Thank you so much to everyone who slogged through this garbage with me. I hope you enjoyed this somewhat. If you did, you'll find me over on my channel, Peach Bailey, linked in the description, or over on Twitter at Peach Bailey. And a huge thank you again to my friend Some Black Guy for letting me host this on his channel. I wish you excellence in life and a safe move to Europe, and come to Australia next time. Okay, bye guys.